I think like the kind of topic which you talk about or your expertise is in, this is something like which is very close to me, because it's been like 20, 25 years. So I was like, I felt like I was nothing like 5 years ago, and everything changed after like I got into like mindfulness, meditation and all that stuff. So that's why I wanted to like talk to someone about that. I've read pretty much on religion like Buddhism, in depth, like Mahayana and everything. So that's why like I wanted to do this with you.
Let's see where this goes.
Yeah, definitely. So like I really want to start with you. Just talk about yourself and just tell me like what exactly you do and what your expertise is in.
So it's funny because when you practice Zen, I'm really nothing.
Okay.
I'm nobody.
Yeah.
You really are trying to like let go of self.
Yeah.
So I'll start with some philosophy then, because that's what Buddhism is.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Buddhism is philosophy. It's not religion. Even though it's identified as the third biggest religion in the world. And so the philosophy is that there is no self. And so yes, I have accolades and I have trainings and I have things that are a part of me, but by no means do I let them identify or define me.
Okay.
But if I had to define for listeners, I'm a faculty member, so I'm a professor in the Graduate School of Applied and Professional Psychology at Rutgers. So I teach and have developed a bunch of programs there around applied psychology, organizational psychology, and sports psychology. And then I'm a sports psychologist, but I'm really a counseling psychologist who happens to work with athletes. And so what that means is I both work primarily with mental health, mental skills, mental health, well-being, because that's what improves performance. So then as a coach, I kind of work as an optimal performance coach, so helping people find this zone to perform at their highest level. And that's where this sort of blend of, psychology, performance, and then the professor role is just being able to do some research around that and understand how it actually works.
So I think when we talk about psychology, so psychology, and it's related to like CBT mostly, and then we talk about Zen Buddhism, which is your background, right? So it doesn't go in together. It's like we talk about mindfulness there, we talk about meditation and no self.
Yeah.
And psychology is like more on the pragmatic way. So like how do you combine all these things and with the people who are in sports?
I think it's a beautiful marriage, actually. So my psychology happens to be CBT, like you mentioned. For listeners, it's cognitive and behavioral therapy. And that's the way I approach, but other people approach it in all different kinds of ways. There's humanistic, existential, Freudian. And so we all kind of conceptualize our work in different ways. I will say that it's actually a beautiful marriage between CBT and Zen, because, for example, one basic technique in CBT is cognitive diffusion. How do I separate from my thought? Well, okay, there's no sense of self. There it is. And so actually, a lot of the third wave cognitive behavioral therapy, they're all borrowed from Zen. And I don't know which one came first, to be honest. They were pretty close. Like as I was in grad school, I got introduced to my Zen teacher. And so I was both starting to learn about this, but then also seeking it for myself. And so now fast forward, and I've been studying with him for almost 20 years, just studying, Zen and kind of holding his Dharma and learning from him, Robert Kennedy Roshi, like what Zen actually is.
But I personally think that, I think that the psychological part and the philosophical part of Eastern philosophy and everything is like pretty separate. Psychology just packaged it in a way to make it more pragmatic, and that so that people can use that philosophy. It's like something, because when you talk about like Buddhism and particularly Mahayana, this is like very deep. Like you get into like the shithole and like you ask this question like, okay, then what am I doing? Like if I'm not, everything is illusion, then what am I doing? And I think psychology then helps you to put it like in a structured way and how to use it, like being a stoic, I would say, and like giving a proper sort of thing in that. But I really want to know, because so in sports also tells us like about being mindful, because when you are playing something, you are mindful about it. Like you don't think about anything else. You are already in the game, and because you are doing it because you love it, right? So those people already have a different sort of mindset and different sort of mentality compared to the people who are not playing any sports and like the normal people. How do you distinct those two kinds of people, and how do you help the sports guys more?
Guys and girls.
Yeah.
And so, I'd say where the sports stuff is unique is that sports is just about performance. So, and they really want to get better. And not that the general population doesn't, but athletes work at a higher level to get better. They want the edge. we just had the NBA draft, the NFL, NHL draft. I mean, all these things. These people sacrifice so much for this moment in time. And so understanding what that sacrifice is about, creating meaning in it, is what allows for people to kind of reach that highest level. And so, it is a beautiful marriage. And I like that you're trying to, figure out how it's married. I appreciate you doing that. And like you said, most of this is borrowed from Buddhism. And Buddhism is deep. And really, therapy is deep. Most people, if you've ever gone through therapy, it's likely one of your most intimate relationships you've ever had in your life.
You say everything out to that person. Like sometimes you don't even say it to your partner.
Correct. Yes. Well, yes. A lot of times you will tell something to your therapist that you will not tell your partner. Absolutely. And, there's cultural implications for that because certain cultures feel like you should not be telling anybody anything else, or just keep it in the family. And, the family is very biased and they don't fully understand what's going on, especially if they have assimilated into some Western culture. And I think that is where the multicultural psychology comes in and saying, how can I be as competent as possible to understand the person in their context? That's the other piece of CBT that I really like. Third wave CBT, we talk about contextual behaviorism. We are not anything without our context. Walking in here today was really hot. That was part of my context. It was a negative thought of like, wow, this is a really annoying temperature. And then diffusing from that, because in the winter, and I'm always mindful of that and I've done the work, because in the winter, then people complain it's too cold. At least here, because we're recording in Newark. Embracing and radically accepting what is in front of us is really the key.
That's true. I think, this is like the answer which you gave is like, I get it. Like whenever you explain things, you have that both kind of mixture, which I'm, trying to find right now. So I get it. But, like particularly in sports, like things are about like, I'm not able to grow. I'm not able to perform as good as I am. Okay. And when I talk about Buddhism or when I talk about Zen, it's like you are nothing. You're not even like being like, as Descartes says, like, I think, therefore I am. Like,
that's right.
Because if you're not thinking, you are not.
That's right.
Right. So that consciousness and that kind of stuff. But when someone, didn't get selected for a particular game, and he comes to you,
absolutely,
then like, what do you tell them?
You weren't meant to be at this game. I mean, so what we do work on that. I think, therefore I am. And that was actually, my teacher taught about that this morning a little bit, actually, because Thich Nhat Hanh and Dogen, a lot of these like big Eastern authors have written about, the mind and how everything's a mind. You also said illusion earlier, and nothing exists outside the mind. And yet we have constructs of the mind. And so when that person comes because they weren't selected, it's about what we focus on from the psychological behavioral perspective is process, not outcome. So, when, say, for example, if a parent loses a child, you just don't understand, in that pain, there's no meaning in that moment. I've treated many parents that have lost kids, and it's a terrible thing. And so, not getting selected for a game, it's a terrible thing. There's lots of suffering. I mean, so that's also where this blends.
Suffering is like the other face of the coin.
It's universal. It's the first noble truth. Everything is suffering. So not getting selected is suffering. Okay, cool. That's part of your process now. And so let's suffer, but let's suffer in an effective way. Because if I beat myself up and if I'm so negative constantly and ruminating on it, that doesn't help either. Right.
Because you mentioned ruminating, I have this question which I ask myself a lot. And I think because I also grew in that particular field, like, became a better person after knowing the answer. So I used to ask this question to myself, like, what is the difference between being self-aware and being like, in that zone of overthinking? That sort of like, there is one thing where you overthink, and there is something where you like sort of ruminate, but in a constructive way. How do you see yourself? And the way I used to explain this is like, overthinking is something where you keep yourself right now and you're thinking about you. And like self-reflection, we can call it, is something when you go to the third person point of view and you see yourself, and then you try to answer the questions which you were not able to do it, and then you like become better at it. How do you explain this thing?
It's a really good question. I think it takes people a long time to realize that, because we often find ways to justify any behavior. I can justify eating a bag of Oreos every night, drinking 3 bottles of wine. I mean, there's lots of things that we can justify. So I can also justify ruminating. It's helped me. I overanalyze. It gets me to where I want to be. So I think that's what we do, is we just dissect things down to the most basic fundamental aspects, which really helps you understand things and see them for what they are.
I think this is like a great truth which people don't realize. Some people are who overthinks a lot. They say that, okay, no, I overthink a lot because I want to grow.
Right.
But you're not exactly growing. You're not self-reflecting. You're just overthinking on that particular thing, and you're not growing because you're going to make the same mistake when you go into that same situation again.
That's right. And as as a behaviorist, the way I practice, we would call somebody out on that.
Okay.
Identify it. It's identify that there's a disconnect there. Albert Ellis would have called that a dysfunction. So there's a dysfunction in your belief around ruminating. Because sure, there's could be goods in it. There you might see good in death. Many cultures do.
Yeah, that's one of the biggest question in philosophy, and they start with it with death. So,
So it's all how you see it, and so it's really trying to train the brain to see it in a way that's clear and simple.
Can we say that accepting whatever we are feared of is a good way of starting? I
mean, there's lots of that in mainstream right now. Mainstream media will say, say yes to everything, do the thing that's uncomfortable, and so, there's truth to that for sure. And there's times I just don't want to do things that are uncomfortable. That's okay too.
I think I was listening to Jordan Peterson, if you have heard of him, and he has not whatever opinions he have right now, but the things he used to say previously in his psychology lectures. I used to listen to that, and he used to talk about fear a lot, which people have.
Yes.
People don't want to accept because they are afraid of the people who are looking at them. And I explained this in a very really good way. I just came up with this, that you're hiding behind the wall of your own insecurities. And you don't want to come out. But if you just be a little bit, courageous, and you come out, you'll see there are a lot of walls of insecurities where people are hiding.
Yes.
So you think that you have the insecurities, but when you realize that everyone has insecurities, you just need to be courageous enough to come out and confront people. And people will be I think they will be proud of you because they are insecure, and when they see someone who is courageous enough to accept his insecurities, they look up to that person. Do you think this is true?
I think this is very true. I love the way that you framed that. It's I did a workshop on that with one of my teams I work with just a few weeks ago about insecurities. Because it's such an important part of emotional intelligence, and also just owning it. Athletes are meant to present strong all the time, and they're human. And so they will also suffer and have pain in the same way that we do. And so trying to identify your insecurities helps prepare for when we're facing adversity. Because everyone will face adversity. It's just that some of us are a little bit more resilient in the face of adversity because we've had too much experience with it. And so trying to understand how some of those experiences have also contributed to the development of insecurities, taking inventory on them, and then there's no certificate when you're done. They might still exist. You don't graduate. You don't get a master's degree of oh, my insecurities are gone. Great. That doesn't exist.
You just get control over it. That's it.
I don't like the word control.
Okay.
Awareness.
Awareness.
You're aware because control means that I have some kind of faculty over emotion, or I have some control over my behavior, but even sometimes I don't. I can choose certain behaviors. I cannot control my feelings. That I know for sure.
That's very deep. I'm just thinking about it. You actually can't control. Even if you think that you are the perfect being, but you still can't control. It's you are just aware that you're wrong.
That's right. And so just raising the awareness about it is really the key, because they might show their face 20 years from now when you've already done the work. So that's why when people do work, say around, family or parental dysfunction, it's not like they're done. 20 years, they might be their own parent, parenting their child, or caring for someone who's old, and they might bring some of that up. Awareness is what's key.
Right. You just mentioned one thing which, when you said athletes are treated to be not, they shouldn't be, broken down. They're very masculine in nature. I really want to know, because you are a counselor and you are with guys and girls both. Do you see some sort of traits of masculinity and femininity in these people, and how do they treat the problem in front of them? compared to guys and girls, because I feel that girls have that feminine side, which makes them like more relieved. Guys are like too masculine. They don't want to lose.
Well, I mean, I think you like data.
Yeah.
Am I right?
Yeah. Of course, like I'm a quant.
I know, that's fine.
So.
I heard that on our ride up. So, so the Minnesota Multiphasic Personality Inventory, it's a MMPI. It is the largest, most studied personality assessment of all time. You know, I don't know, hundreds of thousands of data points, you know, for normative samples. Yeah. And the most ineffective construct of the MMPI is the masculine-feminine construct. So, you know, back in the early 1900s, whenever this was developed, there was a masculine-feminine index, and that is proven to be the most like inefficient and insecure. I don't know the really stats term of it, but it really is not solid.
Insignificant, basically.
It's insignificant. And so I think because it's dichotomous, and I think that that's what we have to be careful of, is that when we fall into this, like men are meant to be masculine, women are feminine, does that make them handle situations differently? Well, beyond that, all of them are sentient beings. Yeah. So in the Zen kind of borrowed language. So everyone feels. And so feminine insinuates that it's emotional or sensitive. Well, that's a strength. And so for men to also feel that and to have that emotional intelligence around that is a strength. Yeah. And so now women do develop emotionally earlier. You know, so from developmental psychology, we know that women develop earlier compared to the boys and girls. And so there's that difference. And so there's, you know, some argument that they should kind of advance in school, you know, more quickly because they're able to manage situations. But when it comes to sport, I'd say, you know, it's not really there. It doesn't really impact. Right. It's insignificant. You know, now, of course, the men's locker room is meant to be masculine. And I don't know if the women's locker room, we have to have a female sports psychologist or a female athlete on to ask. I don't know what their locker room is like, but I'm going to say it's probably not what we would think is feminine. Yeah. I'm sure there's not like dolls in pink and unicorns and fairy dust all around. I mean, they're still really hardworking athletes as well. Yeah. So just be careful, like when we fall into that sort of dichotomous, all or nothing thinking. It's polarizing.
Right. And I think I actually completely agree with this. And I think nowadays, so my hypothesis is that because as we grew in like last, I would say, few decades, things have been like things are changed. Like when we talk about Gen Z and all that stuff, people have both the traits, like whatever we define at like masculine is something, feminine is something. I think people have the mix of both traits. Of course. I think you should have, even if you're a man, you should have the balance of both. Right. Like there can be some situations where you need to be like very masculine, because like if someone is outside your house and about to shoot you, like the masculine thing will come in like to fight, and the feminine thing is like more about caring, and it's more about control when you are like, you know, when you are like very angry with yourself or something, like feminine urges you to be controlling yourself. That Zen thing is like, I would say, more like a feminine thing. So this is my hypothesis, because people are growing up in a household where they have both kind of parents and they develop both kind of things. So that's why I think we shouldn't be saying like guys and girls. It's like Homo sapiens.
It's exactly right. Yeah. So we'll have to test this hypothesis then.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I did tested it like very few data set talking to my friends. Yeah. And I just realized, you know, like when you come to your house, your dad is a kind of person who's like very straightforward. Just do this. Your mom is like, okay, did you eat food? Yeah. Just come and eat. So that is some sort of, you know. Yeah.
Well, so two things. One, introvert, extrovert also doesn't fall into that same dichotomous category. Most people have a certain sense. That's contextual behaviorism. Yeah. Sometimes I'm an extrovert, sometimes I'm an introvert. And then I think also just be mindful of culture. You know, so there's very, you know, cultural factors really impact how we see the world. And so what I hear you describing is a very traditional kind of patriarchal, maybe Indian family. Right? I don't want to make that assumption. Is that a lot of the view that you'll see the world from? Yeah. So, you know, if we had a Hispanic person here, we might be having a different conversation. Yeah. You know, similar. I'm Greek American, you know, and so, you know, again, similar, like a culture of food and family. But, you know, these are the things that really impact then our worldview. And so that's what I think is such a beautiful thing about what I'm able to do, is help people define and construct their worldview, because it changes.
And when you talk to a lot of people, you also realize, like, did you come across something new which as per your hypothesis was something else, and when you talk to that person, okay, this is also something which exists in the world.
Yes.
Did you come across these kind of things?
Of course. Yeah, it's everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is something like which I also thought. But yeah, I think this is good. I really want to talk about how did you get into like this Zen and Buddhism? Like, was it just an academic point of view, or did you like practiced it also?
Yeah, I practiced it for sure. So it was sometime at grad school that I was yearning for it. So grad school in psychology, like when I was in it, I thought, oh God, I really wish I did engineering or accounting. It's heavy.
Yeah.
I not to say that engineering or accounting is not heavy, but psychology is just so heavy to reflect on your implicit biases and understand the impact of culture and your own insecurities and your self schema and a lot of stuff that maybe at the time I wasn't really ready for. And I think that's why it's such a beautiful kind of art, and I love teaching and kind of developing and mentoring because it really helps us connect with other people. So at some point during that, probably because of my own suffering that was uncovering, I was seeking something. I've always been active. I was a former swimmer. And so, working out, and I found yoga during grad school, and so all these things were like little entry points into like, yoga's from the East, and then learning about like Yogananda and like all these other people, and like, oh wow, how they brought it here, and but of course not with welcoming arms. It was everything's a struggle. And so I think that was just the point. And so I met my teacher, Robert Kennedy Roshi. He is a Jesuit priest. Who also they lived in Japan studying meditation for many years.
Oh, okay.
And so that's how he came. He just celebrated his 92nd birthday last week. He's 92 years old. And so I've been studying with him for about 20 years, and it's just such a beautiful, and so a lot of what he writes about and preaches on is interfaith.
Okay.
So interfaith dialogue, how.
What exactly is that? Can you explain?
You don't have to be one thing. Now, a lot of people won't like that, but you don't have to be, just Muslim or just Hindu or just Catholic or just Jewish, and so meditation is sort of an adjunct. And so interfaith means let's have the dialogue. And many people have written about this, about how there's more similarities between religions than differences. And yet, I think there's some stat that they are the cause of every war. I believe religion has caused like every war that's ever begun.
So this is what the atheist argument comes in when they talk about this.
Right.
I don't want to like talk about it because they talk about Russia, they talk about China, and Russia being like that Soviet and everything, and they then become atheist, communist, and all that stuff.
Right.
So they say that like the religion is the cause of every war.
Right.
I'm not sure like how true is that. They have like good hypothesis on that.
Yeah.
But that's the argument.
Yeah. So there's an argument there. I'm not making it. I'm just simply saying that I do know that humans don't like when people disagree with them. That's certainly something we're seeing today. And so it's really just about how can I try and listen? Like how can I hear someone else's perspective, which we don't often spend a lot of time doing. Right. And so that's interfaith dialogue. Just trying to have a conversation around it. And so I'll tell you a quick story. So before I was a professor at Rutgers, my previous institution was called Felician University. And it was just a Catholic university. And so I brought him to do a talk. And, because he's also a trained psychoanalyst. So it's a little bit different, but he does psychology. So he's got a couple PhDs and just a brilliant man. And so it was perfect. Like, let's bring him into my students. He finishes his talk, talks about meditation and Zen and, Jesuits. And then without fail, one of my students raises their hand and she, first question, and she says, how can you pray to two gods? And so, of course,
I want to know the answer. How did he respond?
Well, a Zen person answers very well. I mean, in Zen, we don't have a lot of answers, because it's the seeking of answers, which you data people don't like. But you have to it's the unknowing of just, his answer was something along the lines of like, I could see why you see it that way. For me, it's all universal, and, it was something, very, very sophisticated to be able to, but not defensive. He probably even engaged her in further dialogue, to be honest, but I was, of course, a little mortified. I was younger in my, I had probably only been studying with him for like maybe 2 to 5 years at that point. So I was still young and even in my own Zen journey. And I'm still young in my Zen journey, but.
Yeah. Did you because you think you talked about him right now, did you come across any question which you didn't agree with him and you wanted to know the answer? Like, did you ever question him? I think there would be like a lot of times initially like when you talk to someone and when someone is studying like any sort of subject like that, initially you just listen to that person and then eventually that question arises. Okay, then if this is the truth, then what is this? That kind of conversation, have you ever had with him? Like the question which challenges him?
No. I mean, you really can't challenge a Zen person.
That's the fact, yeah.
Because there's just, it's just words. You know, so in a real philosophical concept, like a bunch of letters come together to make words, to make a sentence, and then we give it meaning.
Yeah.
You know, and so they really kind of deduce it to the most minimal level. I will say when I first got there, again, I identify as a high performer. You know, I was, Olympic trials and high level kind of, sport accolades and PhD now. And so when I got there, I was like, okay, how can I be the best Buddhist? You know, like, of course, because that was, for me, it was like, I want to do this perfectly. And his response was, and this one I'll never forget. His response was, you're exactly where you need to be. You know, because of course I was like, do I need to stop drinking wine? Do I need to stop eating meat?
Yeah.
You know, what do I need to do? And so subsequently I did all of that, because I wanted to see what that was like. And so it took many years of not drinking any alcohol, not even caffeinated coffee. I stopped eating meat then. I still haven't eaten meat since then.
You don't eat meat?
I don't eat meat since then. My choice, no one imposed that on me.
I'm a vegetarian too, so that's why.
Yeah. It's, for me, it was more about the suffering of animals. That was my journey. It's not, I'm not righteous about it and go enjoy your steak. I'll eat with people that are having a beautiful steak. That's good for them. I'll ask them to thank the animal if they could. That's the Zen thing to do. But yeah, so it was just kind of a, and of course his response was not, I wanted to take notes. I wanted to be like, okay, what do I need to do? And he was like, you're doing what you need to be. Like, you're here. That's it. And so I sat with that for a long time, and 20 years later, here I am.
I really want to talk about like Zen koans, but like I'll keep it in the later, because you just talked about, even though like I'm a data sort of guy, but my journey in like last 5 years has completely changed because I have been into like philosophy, and being an Indian, I started with Indian philosophy and like all the Eastern one. Then I read a little bit about Freud, Carl Jung, and every kind of guy like who are very pragmatic in their choice. But like again, the answers which the Eastern philosophy gave, I'm not sure if you know about this Advaita philosophy and Dvaita philosophy. This is part of Indian.
Yeah, I've heard of it.
So I'll just like give it like a short explanation what exactly it is. So the Indian philosophy is like a big version of Vedas and everything.
Yeah.
And then after those Vedas, there was like two dissection. One was the atheistic religions, and one was theistic religions. And in the atheistic one, we had Jainism, we had Buddhism, and there was one more called Charvak. So Buddhism came from the atheistic religion.
Yes.
And then Buddhism was divided in other domains, Mahayana and other kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So Mahayana was from Nagarjuna.
Yes.
So he's the guy who wrote Mahayana Buddhism. And Mahayana Buddhism is very much related to Advaita philosophy. Advaita means non-dualistic.
Okay. Yes.
So non-dualism is like basically what Buddhism talks about. Like it's just you, and that is also an illusion.
Yes.
There is no, sansar, the world. It's not in front of you. It's just you. So I think that's why I got into like that kind of stuff. And as you explained that when you become that kind of stuff, you don't see anything right or wrong.
That's right.
You just become, okay, you know what, like maybe you're wrong, maybe you're wrong. No one is wrong, or no one is right.
Right.
So that kind of like thought process which came to my mind, and that's why I love Buddhism more. I will say I'm sort of an agnostic, sort of a person. I don't deny anything. I don't accept anything.
Yes.
So how did this change your relationship with God? Because you come from, you said you were a Greek American, right?
Yeah.
So what was your earlier relationship with God, and then what it became? How it's changed?
Well, I love that you brought non-dualistic up. So I think that's critical. I mean, that is at the foundation of Mahayana and Zen, of course. And so, and that's going to be hard for a lot of listeners if you haven't studied this.
It's sort of very deep.
It's very hard. Yeah. What I will say is, what I often will say to that is, if you take a coin, and I'll often ask people how many sides are on this coin, and their answer is two. And then I stand it up on the perimeter of it, like a nickel, an American nickel can stand up on the side. I said, well, there's at least three, and that's non-dualism.
Oh, that's
right.
It's kind of deep. Yeah.
Because the world sees it as like a heads and tail, but every coin can stand on the perimeter. and the circumference. So that's that there. So for me, God, God is an interesting thing. I mean, I believe in everything. So I think similar to you. And so it's not, I've never, some people say, oh, so you identify as Buddhist. And I'm like, I don't know what that means. I don't not identify as a Buddhist, and I don't identify as a Buddhist. I don't not identify as Christian, or, I identify as Homo sapien in some ways, like you said, I mean, it's this human condition. I do believe there's a lot more out there than we know. And so whatever God is, I think each person has their own version of what God is. And that's beautiful.
Yeah. And I would say that's more of a belief.
Yes.
And belief is not absolute. Belief is something which is very subjective to people. It's not the objective. So that's why there are people who are arguing against God and who are arguing for God.
Right.
Because there is no right answer. So why do you want to fight?
Well, what's interesting, I'd be curious what you think about this. So as education goes up, belief in God goes down. So there is a direct
correlation, inverse correlation.
Yeah. And so I'd be curious what you think about that as in your analytic brain, because I think that that's something that I see a lot. And I think that's also why in today, as we're recording this, higher ed has been demonized because there's a lot of people there that have a lot of education.
I would say, so you said like when the education goes up, the belief in God goes down.
Yeah.
Actually, that's a very pretty precise statement, because when you say belief in God, that's a good thing. Like,
right.
You don't believe in some things when the education goes up, because you get to know about the things. Like you are being, because like whenever we argue about something, we just goes, okay, if this happened, then how this happened? Then you go like that. So education helps you to get those answers, right?
That's right.
So I was also like a very big believer in God, but I'm believer in the philosophy more now.
Yeah.
I don't believe in the superstition, the supernatural, and all that kind of stuff. Like, okay, if something is, we can call it free will. So that is something which I don't believe in. Like, I got that answer, but I treat God as a philosophical, metaphorical, figure, which helps me to lead my way in a better way.
Yes.
So it's very like, it's not a like any one answer. It's like again in the middle.
Yes.
Like I believe in the God, but I don't believe.
So in Zen, we call that middle path.
Middle path, yeah.
And it's beautiful to find middle path.
Right. So this is your middle path too?
I think so. I to be honest, it's a great question, because I'm not sure that I've thought about it, nor have I answered that in quite some time. But I do love when I go to church, and I'll go to any church.
Exactly.
I one of my goddaughters recently got confirmation. I loved going.
Yeah.
And
you love that. You love that aura. Like even though if you don't pray, like, but you love that sound. I think the reason being is because that people when they're going to that kind of place, they're more positive in nature, and that sort of like vibration, or whatever we call it, it's in the surrounding.
Yeah.
And you feel good.
Yes, exactly.
And like if you go to a funeral, you'll see like people are not happy, and you'll see that kind of energy in that area. So that's why I think you loved going to the church. And I'm like, I was a Krishna follower earlier, and right now I got ISKCON. You know about ISKCON?
Yeah.
So I loved that place.
Yeah.
I like staying at that place, even though I don't pray it, like I don't preach God, but I love that place. I love the philosophy of Krishna. I love Gita.
Yeah.
So like that is something which I believe like should be the correct answer, or like the middle path.
The middle path. Yeah. Beautiful.
Yeah. How would you define meditation?
So meditation can be, well, I'm going to give a non-secular answer.
Yeah, that is what I want.
Yeah. So not as meditation can be whatever you want it to be. Meditation could be hiking, could be cooking, could be walking, could be having a deep conversation with a friend or a partner. Meditation could be all those things. It could also be sitting still. And so that's where I start.
Okay.
Because it really is helpful for people just to find some connection with the basics. The basics of just of slowing down. So I kind of gave the definition of mindfulness then, and that's because I really see mindfulness as the umbrella. And when I first started doing mindfulness like 15 years ago, people didn't really know what it was. They weren't using it in the same way that they're using it today. Now people seek me out for mindfulness coaching or training or things of that nature. And so mindfulness is on purpose in the present moment and without judgment. That's from Jon Kabat-Zinn. Yeah. So that's really where I think meditation falls. It's a practice of mindfulness. To me, mindfulness is the umbrella. And meditation is one way that you could do it. And so in Zen, meditation is very still. So you have a zafu and a zabuton. You have these cushions that you sit on, raises your hips above your knees. You got 3 points on the earth. Flexible people might sit in lotus. You could crisscross applesauce. You could sit on your knees. Lots of different ways you could do it. But the key is just about an intention. So it's I'm sitting for the intention of just sitting. I'm not sitting because I want to feel less anxious. I'm not sitting because I want to grow deeper with God.
Yeah.
I just am sitting.
Right. I think this is the answer which I was expecting, and I think that's the correct answer, because when I talk to someone and ask them about meditation, they have this very obscure view of meditation that it's just about sitting still.
Right.
But I think that's not the correct way. When Zen also talks about, it's being present in the moment.
Right.
Not thinking about the past, not thinking about the future, being present in the moment.
That's
and it can be done whenever, even while we are talking to each other, and we are if we are present in the conversation, it's meditation.
Yes.
So this is, a lot of people don't realize it, and I think I think maybe I'm wrong, but in West, a lot of people has capitalized on that sitting and stillness
for
part.
sure.
What's your opinion on that?
Well, I mean, there's what is that? 9 Perfect Strangers. Is this? There's a series right now on Showtime where it's a wellness retreat for rich people, and yes, people are capitalizing on it. It's what we do in the West. Non-judgmentally embrace that. It's a known Western, behavior. That being said, I will say that sitting still in Zen meditation is likely more productive when compared to the other activities I mentioned. Now, and that's kind of what I'm trying to embark on in my research, because a lot of my research now, we're doing some fMRI studies and looking at how the brain actually evolves over the time of sitting.
Right.
And so I'd like to prove that, maybe the brain does change more deeply when we sit, still. I don't know if we'll ever do it, because there's so much, it's hard to control. There's so much that goes on in between sessions and in between scans.
Yeah.
But I do think that, I do believe that the Zen still way is probably the most effective.
Yeah, because I don't think you can achieve that meditative state just by doing that activities. You need to be still first.
Right.
Still doesn't mean that, but still in the mind. And I think that's the best way to come into this kind of space, when you are being mindful about your environment.
That's right.
And that's a very difficult thing to do.
Correct.
Yeah. How do you still sit and meditate?
Yes.
Every day?
Every day.
Okay. So what, I tried, I also try, and I started with the breathing techniques and everything, because it helps you to, all the guided stuff and everything, you focus on that voice and it helps you. But again, whenever I sit, I have these thoughts running to my mind. And I think a lot of people might have asked you this question, whenever we sit and meditate, the thoughts come and go, and we are not exactly focusing on our breath and all that stuff. So how do you answer that? How someone can focus on that?
I mean, thoughts are meant to come, to be there. So it's not meant to be still. And I think that's the biggest misconception of it. Eckhart Tolle wrote that stillness speaks, right? So the idea of staying still, I mean, I say to athletes, I've done the max probably 9-day silent retreat, and that is more difficult than running a marathon. My body's sore, my mind is drained. So the it's actually physically draining to sit that still that long.
Yeah.
And so the goal is not to still the mind per se. I do believe that the cadence slows down and the volumes turn down. And we call it shikantaza. So there is the process of, when you're sitting, you're just thinking, and that's okay.
Yeah. And what about the distractions in the current world we have, technology and everything?
That's okay.
For young guys, it's about the opposite gender and everything. That kind of stuff, it distracts you a lot. And I don't think nowadays people can sit still even without their phone. You don't have to be meditative. You can't even just keep your phone away and just be in that present. And you have those kind of people a lot around you.
A lot, yeah. This generation now does not know how to be bored.
Yeah.
Actually, it's what I like. We don't know how to be bored.
Yeah.
You have never had to wait online at the grocery store or the post office without a phone. And, I grew up that way.
Yeah.
And so you didn't have GPS everywhere. I'm not trying to sound old, because I'm not even that old. But that's how much technology has affected us. And so, the curve is steep right now. with the effect that this technology has had on us, which is why we need this more than ever. So it's important when we do sit that the phone stays away from us.
Right. And what's the best practice to do, like, to be more mindful? Like, this is, I'm asking this for me because even though like I started everything like in 5 years ago, after coming here, like things have changed. I'm not like, maybe I'm surrounded with the people who are not into these kind of stuff. And in India, I was like alone in my room. I used to just like, sit without a phone for like 2 hours, that kind of retreat, like silence retreat. I used to do it, like deliberately do it, that I'll keep my phone shut off and like laptop and everything.
Yeah.
And I had this area where I had artificial grass.
Yeah.
And I had like some diffuser or something to have that kind of smell. And I used to sit on that floor for like 2 hours.
Yeah.
Just staring at the sky.
Yeah.
But I haven't done this like in last 2 years. And I feel like more chaotic in my mind right now.
Yeah.
And I don't know like what to do. Like, just tell me a way, how can I start again?
Start again. It's each moment is a time to start anew. So it's just start anew. It's every relationship ebbs and flows. And so too does the relationship with meditation. And that sounds like a beautiful practice that you had in India.
Yeah.
And so finding ways to, maybe start 5 minutes today. It doesn't have to be 2 hours. But these phones do keep us addicted. They're addicting us.
Yeah.
And we're addicted to them.
Yeah. And some sort of like validation is something which is causing this. Because, so what I feel right now is like, if I'm not on internet, if I'm not getting something or reading something or watching some podcast or something, it's not just about like engaging myself in some entertainment stuff. For me, it's like, why am I wasting my time? I just got off my office at 5 p.m. I should start learning something new. I should start doing something like productive. But I think that is also something like which creates a chaos in my mind, because I'm thinking that, okay, if I don't do this, I'll be left behind in the world.
Yeah. Just a thought. Also, if you don't take care of yourself and slow down and unbusy your mind, you'll also be missing out on something.
Okay. This is something I'm like really thinking of in last 3-4 days.
Yeah.
And I don't know like how to do this. Like the mind has been like very chaotic, and I'm not like getting back in that Lakshay which was like 3 years back. And yeah, I think
you don't want to chase what was 3 years back. You just want to chase this moment and just reset in this moment. You don't want to feel how you felt 3 years ago.
Right.
You want to feel peaceful today, but you also didn't have a master's degree then. You didn't have the other things that you now have, the experience that you have. So you don't want to be that person. You just want to be a person who integrates that mindful practice in his life.
Right. And then how can I remove this thought from myself? And I think a lot of people also have this thought of feeling of missing out.
Yeah.
So how can I remove that thought from my mind?
Yeah, we can't remove thoughts. We have to just let them go. So they'll come in like a cloud in the sky. So FOMO is a real thing, fear of missing out. And I actually just was interviewed for a television on that. It's a real thing, especially in this area. So in New York, Newark, one of the articles reporter was referencing as now FOBO. So the fear of something better.
Oh.
Right. And so that's a big thing. That is also similar to FOMO. And, this is the world, like we'll call it the West, but when you're in New York, it's just different West, because it's fast paced, it's high energy, it's high achieving, it's all those things.
Yeah. Because until unless you don't have this knowledge of that something is happening, you are okay. Like I didn't know all these things like when I was in India, like, okay, this is something which is happening in the other side of the world. But when I see it, when I have the recollection of those memories which I've seen on the internet, then I feel, okay, should I be like doing this?
Right.
If I don't see my friends' stories partying in some place, I won't feel bad. But if I see it, then I'll feel bad.
Right.
So, I think getting off the social media is the best thing to do it.
Absolutely.
So do you engage in social media a lot?
I use intentionally, I use it. I don't let it use me.
Okay.
So it's part of my brand, but I also am very bounded around how I use it. So I have people that help me use it, so that I'm not the one always doing some of the stuff because
like content posting.
Exactly. Yeah. Because it's, I'll make the content, but then they post it and things like that because I don't want for me, it's just healthier not to be involved in that way.
I recently got like 1 million views on one of my videos.
Wow.
And I was like, and I think that is something which led me to like keep using it.
Yeah.
Why do you do that? Like why do you click on that likes and keep refreshing?
That's intermittent reinforcement. That's learning theory. So that's why their algorithm has gotten us addicted to it. So that 1 million views helped you now use it more. And that's it's literally what they're doing. They being the app engineers.
Yeah, I think it's time to get done with that. I just want to like finish it quickly, and I have few things to ask, like what's the meaning of life according to you? And that might have been changed after getting into Buddhism. That's why this is a question which I wanted to ask you.
So what's the meaning of life
for you, and how do you explain it to someone? Like if someday like you have a son or daughter.
No.
So like let's say if one day like someone comes to you and asks you like, hey, I really want to know like what's the meaning of life, and I'm like being very nihilistic. Everything seems irrelevant now. How do you answer that?
The first part of your question is like, how do I help other people when they come to me with that? I mean, I help them define that. Then, so that's maybe the psychology of me, but even my nieces and nephews and godchildren, I mean, all the kids in my life, when they come with me with that, I help them. I remember one of my godson, I was teaching him that Buddha was in his belly, and so, because it was about suffering, and that Buddha holds, people suffering in his belly, and that he needs to let go of it, whatever he's holding on to in his belly, and so just trying to teach people in that way and help him. He was 6 or 7 at that time. So little gifts like that. I mean, for me, I honestly don't know. I mean, I think life for me is one of service. Okay. So I do believe my vocation is healing. Like I do see myself as a healer. And so whether it's through meditation and Zen or psychology or just, being a good human being, that is to me what the meaning of life is.
Yeah. I think, that's sort of a very good answer, because I think a lot of people have some sort of goal in their mind. Okay, this is some purpose or something which I need to fulfill. But I think that's some sort of a hedonistic treadmill which you just run on, and then eventually you'll realize, okay, it's just I'm just running.
Right.
There's nothing coming in my way, and I think my mom taught me this.
Yeah.
And my mom helped me and my brother a lot to realize that, okay, this is something which you won't be able to achieve. I think they call it arrival fallacy. So I think there was a Harvard psychologist who came up with this term, and like we think that, okay, if I achieve this, I'll arrive. If I achieve then this, I'll arrive. But you never arrive.
Never.
And that's a fallacy.
Yeah.
So I think my mom taught me this very well, and me and my brother like are very hardworking. We want to do something good, like maybe like I'm doing content creation and all that kind of stuff, but we don't stick ourselves to that chase of money.
Yeah.
We have that concept in our back of the mind that, okay, if you're doing something, this will be like the byproduct.
Absolutely.
You don't need to
the money will be there.
Money will be there, yeah. And that's not very insignificant. And I think in Gita also rightly said, like, you just have to do your work. You don't have to worry about the fruit of it.
That's right.
And that's like very deep ingrained thought, because they say like you don't have any control over it. It's just illusion.
Yes.
You just have to do it, and it will come or not, you don't know.
Yeah.
So
there's a very famous movie from the 80s or 90s called Field of Dreams. It was a baseball movie, and it says, if you build it, they will come. And I do believe that that's like such a beautiful message. Whatever you build, if you're passionate about it, they will come.
Okay. What's the best Zen koan you came across and you were like, okay, I need to sit on it?
Well, I mean, my teacher and I, we use one the most. But just this week, I gave a teisho, so a Zen talk to our community. And the koan was, who is it that hears? And so the way I told the story was, and there's, a story of a student coming to a monk and asking about it, who is it that hears, and trying to find the sense of self. But I was teaching my 92-year-old teacher how to use Alexa. And so even Alexa, like, who's Alexa? I kind of went a little AI and because he's very funny, of course, and brilliant. And he says, did Alexa give us permission to use her like this? He was joking, but, and I don't own an Alexa, because I'm very boundaried around that. I don't want too much technology around me. I don't have a smartwatch on. I don't, I think it's important to have disconnect from that. Yeah. But the Alexa doesn't have a screen, and screens are overwhelming for 92-year-olds, to swipe and left and right, and it's not easy. And so, who is it that hears?
That's very deep.
Yeah.
I need to sit on this, and I think I love Buddhism. That's why, like, it helps you to let go of your ego.
Yes.
In sense, and I think each and every problem in the world which you are facing right now is just because of your ego.
Absolutely.
It's just because you take yourself too seriously.
Yes.
But Buddhism says that you don't even exist.
So who is it that hears? Even just for the identity of your ego, who is it? Whose ego is it?
Yeah. That's deep.
Yeah.
That's why I love the non-dualistic nature of philosophy. And I think India is mostly on the dualism.
Yeah.
It's like they call it bhakti. There's a god front of it. And it's good in some part, but it becomes worse when people misuses it to do some sort of things, which happens in India a lot, the religious thing and everything. But I think, thank you so much. Thank you so much for doing this.
I appreciate it. Yeah, this was fun.